Okay, time to deal with another fake advocate for men, a fake olive branch. This young lady is going to pretend that she cares about men's issues. So let's hear what she has to say.
I, for the life of me, cannot understand why the American Psychological Association would release guidelines for working with boys and men that don't center the male experience.
Yes, you do. You're a part of the education system, so you know. It's hostile to men, it's feminist controlled. Lie number one.
This feels like it was written about men, but not for them.
It doesn't feel it, it is that.
Hi, I'm Gabby, and when I was in college and in graduate school, I believe that the way that I was taught to understand the world led to me developing a very strong negative bias against boys and men. I was taught to view the world through a very specific framework.
By who? Who were you taught by? You know, details would be appreciated.
Men are privileged and women are oppressed. And it's true.
Well, you're lying. Lie number two. What I tell you guys, this woman is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Gabby. So women are oppressed. How are you oppressed? And please don't go about the third world. You're talking about yourself. How are you oppressed? How are the women you know oppressed? And who's doing it? And how do men have privilege? What privileges do I have that you don't? You won't be able to come up with one. So this is a bold-faced lie. It's a lie on its face.
Men do have privilege, and women do face systemic oppression.
Systemic, really. So there's societal oppression of women. How? Okay. Is it in the workplace? No. Is it in the education system? No. Is it in the legal system? No. You get first dibs for, the workplace. You get boosted in the education system. You attack men in the education system. The legal system, it's all on your, you get shorter sentences than we do for the same crimes. I have to pay child support. You're legally allowed to give your child up for adoption. Tell me, where is it that you're oppressed?
But it is not the full truth. It's also true that men face systemic oppression and women have societal privilege. Both of those things can be and are true.
No, no. They can be true, but they aren't true. Men are the ones who are oppressed. You girls have privileges. Period. Unless you say that, you are a liar and you are against us.
But when we look at the world through this very narrow lens, where men are always privileged and women are always oppressed, something very dangerous happens. The pain of other groups is seen as more deserving of attention, and the struggles of boys and men get dismissed.
Well, that's just the way it is. That's just human nature. Again, you didn't tell me how you were taught. No, you girls feel this way naturally. That's why when men show vulnerability, it gives you the ick.
So I think far too often when people speak about gender issues, it quickly devolves into a game of who has it worse, men or women.
Well, men do have it worse because we are oppressed and you are privileged. There's no game.
And I think people click on my videos looking to get defensive because most people who talk about gender are only trying to add more fuel to the fire of the gender war.
There is no gender war. That would suggest that two sides are fighting. Men worship women. It's a one-sided beatdown. HR in the workplace, they don't fire women at men's word. They fire men at women's word. And men don't even attack women in the first place. They don't go to HR and complain. So this is just a bold-faced lie.
And I am trying
Oh,
to
by the way, I'm not defensive. I'm offended. That's a big difference. I'm offended that you would come and tell these lies about my gender.
figure out how we can put this fire out.
It's very simple. Stop attacking us. Stop warring with us. Men are Gaza, women are Israel. It's that simple.
Speaking about gender gets very contentious because most people have a lot of pain beneath their views on gender.
No, men do. You women have none. You're just hostile to us.
And when pain is at the center of the conversation, there is always a lot of room for grifting, emotional manipulation, and division. And I
You are the perfect example of that.
get comments all the time saying things like, I clicked on this video expecting to be upset, but I was actually pleasantly surprised. And
Well, that's because you are giving a fake olive branch to men, and men are desperate. Men worship women. Any sign of any kind of alleviation of your attack on us makes men grovel. It's that simple. I mean, look at this guy down here. A guy I did video on, Raymond. Men deserve women that enthusiastically want us. He's not saying men deserve respect or our rights brought back, not just respected, our rights brought back, right? No, he just wants a woman in his life.
I'm like, fantastic, because that's the exact emotional response that I'm going for. I believe
Well, your grift worked then, didn't it?
that if we have a better framework, we can actually respect, acknowledge, and work toward correcting the systemic issues that women face and that men face.
No, no, women don't, you don't suffer any systemic problems. You don't. None. Zero. None. Any problem a woman faces, a man faces as well, other than ovarian cancer, other than diseases that affect women specifically, you have no issues. And even then, disease isn't systemic. It's not oppression.
And that is really the only way that I think we're going to be able to resolve this growing rift that we see between men and women today. I am as pro-woman as I am pro-man, and that
No, no, no. You're anti-male. If you were pro-male, you wouldn't lie about us. You were a liar.
is exactly why I believe that saying men are oppressors and women are oppressed is an inaccurate way to characterize something as complicated as gender in society.
Well, it's inaccurate, but it's also simple. Men are oppressed. Women are the oppressors. It's that simple. There's nothing complex about this. And you're part of the systemic oppression. You are telling a bunch of lies. If you had remained silent, I wouldn't have a problem with you. Just go about your business, about your privileged lifestyle.
The only way we're going to get closer to the truth is to acknowledge that multiple truths exist. And if we want our
No, no, no. That is a lie. If we're going to get closer to the truth, we are not going to listen to your lies. Oh my God, I'm glad this is only 7.5 minutes long.
beliefs to reflect reality, we must be willing to see the ways that both men and women have been historically discriminated against and oppressed in society. By failing to acknowledge the full spectrum of gendered experiences, we've created a way of thinking about gender that does not center the male experience, even when we're speaking about the male experience.
Okay, so we're the ones who suffer systemic discrimination, not you. Otherwise, you'd be saying, look, here's this, here's this APA, and it writes about women's issues, but as if it's not for them. You didn't say that about your gender, did you? So it's obviously they're not the same.
Experience. It sees men as the group who is responsible for everyone else's suffering, including their own. This perspective is not one that promotes any empathy or understanding. Nobody wants to root for the group that they believe to be responsible for their suffering and the suffering of vulnerable people.
Okay, so are women seen under that light or under that lens? No. So your false equivalency is being rejected.
If you see one group as the abused and you see one group as the abusers, you're going to be a lot more willing to care about the group that
You're not saying anything anymore. You're just repeating yourself.
is abused. There's a really common emotional justification for dismissing male pain, which is, well, men have been centered for all of history, and now it's everyone else's turn to be centered. That
Yeah, that's a lie. How is men being shanghaied and thrown on boats and dying in navies, in army, militaries, being crushed underneath the ground in mines? How is that us being centered? Well, your gender stays safe at home. How is that centering us?
line of thinking is driven by resentment. And resentment driven thinking, I really believe, has influenced academia, health literature, and gender studies. The attitude is often men have had it so good for so long, and now it's our turn.
Really? So how have we had it so good for so long? How? If you're talking about the dangerous situation, position of ruling, if you look at king and queens, it's the king that had to worry about getting disposed. Look at the time of the Greeks, where they would murder the king, but they wouldn't murder the queen. They would actually marry the queen. The conqueror would marry the queen to legitimize his place to the people. So the queen was always safe, wasn't she? I don't recall, Abby, too many queens throwing themselves off a cliff either, saying, I can't marry this new conqueror. I love my husband too much. If you're going to kill him, kill me. That never happened.
And that has really influenced the way that we speak about men's issues. We discuss their problems through the lens of power, and we don't really stop to understand their unique experiences of oppression and victimization. I believe that
There's nothing unique about it. We're just oppressed. We're just like any other oppressed group. We're the Gazans, you're the Israelis.
this framework for understanding gender has directly contributed to the lack of care for male suffering that we see today. This way of thinking that lacks compassion and prioritizes critique over care is exactly what I see in these guidelines. And that is why
So it's systemic, isn't it? Again, you say women are also oppressed. Where are the guidelines that say that about your gender?
I want to do a really deep, critical analysis of this document. This series of videos that I'm creating are going to be a bit of a workspace and a rough draft. I'm a woman, so I have a native understanding of the female experience. And that means that there are going to be things that I see and there are going to be things that I
That you need to understand. If you're a woman, you already know it. This is about us guys. I thought this was an olive branch. I thought you were going to make this about us.
miss. And that is where you guys come in. I'm going to be working through this document like guideline by guideline, one video at a time, and each one is going to be a draft. Just me working and thinking through this in real time, and I invite you to follow along with me. And please
Why would I do that? You're obviously a dishonest person. You're obviously a wolf in sheep's clothing. Why would I follow you or trust you in any way?
feel so free to push back on me because I want this analysis to be super airtight because it is really bringing out my mama bear. I do not like the way that it frames male suffering. This project is going to be an evolving dialogue between me and anyone who wants to help me. And
Well, as you can see, I'm in here, guys, and I call this woman out. I say, men have zero privilege. Your lie is being called out. If you're going to lie, don't make videos to be, pretending to be on our side.
I think that if we all work together, this could turn into something really meaningful. Once I've gone through all of the guidelines and have a really good, clear argument, I'm going to be compiling everything into one final polished video. And if you contribute, I am so happy to.
There's nothing to work at. Just cease being the crumb bums that you are. Shut down Me Too. Make it illegal, right? Shut down child support. You want to get pregnant, that's on you. Men owe you nothing. We can't force you to give us children. So those are your children, and we want nothing to do with it. They belong to you. I want nothing to do with them. And unless you start joining us on the oil rigs and the mining and the sewers, we're not interested in pretending that you're equal to us. You avoid those shit jobs. That's why you're in the position that you're in. Typical white collar pencil pushing job. Or in this case, key pushing job.
To include your name in the credits if you would like me to. And who knows, maybe we could influence the next set of guidelines for working with boys and men. It is 2025. A lot of weird stuff happens. I believe that we have to change the way that we
Was that Osmond Gold you showed back there? Yes, he's as anti-male as the rest of you. Pick your AI girlfriend. What has this got to do with the guidelines you're going to talk about?
happens. I believe that we have to change the way that we talk about gender. And I also believe that truth, empathy, and nuance are going to be our only way forward.
If you believed them, you would display those. You wouldn't be telling lies that we men are privileged in any way. Not now, not historically.
So, let's get started. I've created a series of 7 analytical lenses that we are going to be using as a measuring stick to determine whether or not this document actually helps boys and men.
Enough of that. It doesn't. The education system is male hostile. I have a video where they made young boys apologize to girls for their gender. That's schools. That's when they're just kids. People are hostile to men and boys. Now, I know you don't really want to address this issue. That's why you lied at the beginning. And of course, there'll be losers down here patting you on the back and saying, "Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for considering us." Make me puke. Anyway, we'll end it here.